here today. Thank you for just coming and taking some time out of your day to discuss leadership and servant leadership. I think you ladies are amazing women leaders, paving the way for just other women to come in and really learn about servant leadership. And I wanted you here to be able to kind of give our audience a little bit of insight about the ins and outs of how you are servant leaders. So Stacie, tell me a little bit about your leadership and really how it involves a team. And tell us a little bit about who you are and just kind of highlight a little bit of your leadership experience.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be here today. So servant leadership is at the heart of who Chick-fil-A is. When you're brought on as a franchisee, that's really the model that they set for you. So in terms of my team and my organization, I'll start with, serving my team. Mm-hmm. We are a restaurant, so you automatically think about that. And there are certainly days when they just need me to glove up and help make chicken sandwiches or scoop fries next to them to serve them with our long lines. But when I think about it, it's really about building a team around myself that are servant leaders as well. And in order to do that, I have to serve them. I have to serve my leaders. And I think about that in every capacity of their life, not just in the restaurant. That might be on the day-to-day, how can I serve them with their work? But I'm also thinking about how can I serve them with their career advancement? How can I serve them personally with maybe their personal goals, fitness goals, maybe educational goals. How can I, as their employer, serve them to really create a better life for themselves and reach their goals?
No, that says a lot. I've seen Stacie. I've come up for a couple different reasons, our collaboration efforts together, and she's, like she said, she's gloving up, and she may be in one role, and all of a sudden she might be dressed up, but she's back there helping out with the nuggets, just helping the team. And it really shows, because I can see your passion, which we talked about earlier on your show with passion. And it really, the passion really goes a long way. The impact goes a long way. Can you tell us a little bit about your servant leadership and just really what you think it takes to be a good a great servant leader?
Well, I think when you say servant leadership, I actually think leadership is serving. So it's not a style of leadership. It is what you are called to do.
Yes.
So a leader is supposed to do what's right for all those that they serve, and they are there to educate. Actually, I think that's kind of cool, right, Michelle? Because you were a teacher.
Yes.
And so I think leaders are teachers,
yes.
right? And the goal is twofold. The organization has a purpose, and that purpose is beyond the owners, the shareholders. It's something bigger, and that is to create positive impact for everybody that it's serving, right? And then you have the purpose of everybody within the organization, right? You have the purpose of each employee. And I think what a lot of times is a mistake within leadership is you set up the tone of the purpose, the mission, the vision, the values, and all that of the organization, and you ignore the purpose of the individuals. And that's what you were alluding to, Stacie, right? And so what you need to, where servant leadership or leadership, where the magic happens, is when you understand what the purpose of each individual is, and it corresponds and aligns with the purpose of the organization. So everybody feels like, and if you've studied economics, political science, you create a win-win situation, right? Because now no longer do those you serve feel like they're just there to be a cog in the machine of the organization. There's a balance. You're striking leadership and servitude for them so that they can too win and have their purpose achieved. Because let's be honest, I say this on my show all the time, nobody wakes up in the morning and go, I want to make Billy more money. Nobody does that, right? They want to feel like there's something bigger than them. And if they can contribute to the organizational purpose while having their own internal purpose achieved, then it's a win-win situation. So it's a leader's job to make that happen and to hear it and actively listen to make it happen. So one thing I know, Michelle, we're not scripted, but one thing you said, Stacie, that I thought was so interesting, because before having my own business, I worked for corporations. One of the things you said was like fitness, right? And sometimes, this is where I think businesses, I'm not saying Chick-fil-A, but some businesses go like sideways with that, right? Is when they're pushing fitness and the employees feel it's so we can get our insurance premiums down. Not because that's in alignment with the employer, that's even what the employee wants. And that's where I think leadership and servant leadership, it's not about just the organization, it's about what's right for everybody else.
No, that's great. So you don't feel like it's a style, which is interesting. And I feel like servant leadership is kind of it's not for everybody. There's different types of leadership, and I feel like servant leadership can be seen in all different type of organizations and businesses, but I think it does bring the passion. It does bring a dynamic where the purpose comes in, because you actually will see something more than just the mighty dollar. And with what you do for a living, you have to go in there and you have to be kind of game on in all different, wearing different hats, from your community partnerships, which you and I have collaborated on, to not only that, but your team members, bringing on new employment. I know you recently reached out and you're looking for a catering manager, so you're constantly having to hire, you interview. I know you have a team that does that. And I just want to mention my oldest is at West Point, worked at Chick-fil-A for years, not with Stacie, but it is a great organization and culture. And I know before us there was another show and they talked about that culture, and it really does go back to the leader. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of that leader, and then how they lead and they see is how they're going to be. Mm-hmm. And I really feel, after my son had worked at Chick-fil-A for several years, I mean, literally from 14 to almost 18 years old, it was an amazing experience, because you also offer a purpose for each individual that comes in there, from opportunity of excelling, moving up and getting promotional opportunities, to educational opportunities. And I don't think many of our audience knows, but Chick-fil-A offers educational opportunities and scholarships. I'm a grant writer. Scholarships to folks that come in, and they don't necessarily have to be in high school. They can be adults, I believe.
Yes, any student is eligible.
Yeah, and she goes all out. I've seen her photos from like in the last couple years, I think since COVID. But she's went out, and you've gotten a limo for your staff for when they've earned their scholarships. And they're very excited. I mean, they earned, and this isn't just, oh, you work here, just put your name on it. No. I've seen the process from my son's standpoint, where he worked. He had to write an essay that was just like sort of like a grant process, where he had to go in and write everything, talk about his character, talk about where he wants to be in a couple years from now. And it really was a match. It wasn't just free money. Oh, this is an opportunity because you work here. They really want to know who you are and who you're going to be, and your character, and just your success, and why you're applying. And a lot of younger people don't know what they want to do, but it's a great stepping stone, a good opportunity too, because school's so expensive now. Yes. And the fact that you've offered so many opportunities for a lot of your staff, and it's amazing to see. And this brings up the collaboration. I've worked with many different Chick-fil-A's all over that are, Chick-fil-A is an amazing corporate. They'll give whatever they can. And I'm one that says no donation is turned down, because I've learned from being a veteran military spouse and what I do at Fort Gregg Adams, to always take whatever somebody offers me, because that's better than nothing. And if it's a gift card, if it's the little stuffed cows, which I love those, by the way, I buy those every year. Just you went above, and I brought her in this past year for Fort Gregg for our military families, and you put together a beautiful big basket. And while we've gotten donations before, you went above and beyond, and it was just amazing to see what you did for our military. And they also donated an in-kind, a food donation, to serve all of our volunteers, that included military, civilian, I want to say children. Some children came and helped, our board, and our families that were nominated, which is a lot of military service members and their families that came in, and they were grateful. They could not believe. And then your staff came out and did a field trip. They came on, they brought the food in, and then they wanted to know more about it. And they got pictures. They went back to Stacie and said, "This is so cool. We want in. How can we volunteer?" That is the magic. And Tiffany, we talked about that, because it's a full circle, just like how you and I've met. It's the same thing. You bring purpose in what you do. And both of you ladies know how to do that. And that's what really brings a great leader. And I was so excited about this today, because these are women. I'm a woman, and just kind of like an empowerment, just being a leader and being a role model to others really make who I am for my children, and for others that I've been able to lead and teach how to find partnerships, how to build relationships. Just when I was a school teacher as well, when I was a military service member. And I feel like it's really important, because there's not everybody's meant to be a leader. So do you have both of you ladies can answer this, whoever wants to chime in first. Do you have something that you can share with the audience about leadership, for folks that might want to dive into that, or see that they love serving, they have a purpose, but they're not there yet? Like, if you had an employee that is in a medium role, like maybe like manager, but not, I don't know, I'm sorry, like, you got the manager and then the store manager, if they're just like an intermediate position and they want to move up and they see it, how could they go about improving that? And with that said, Tiffany, you do strategic planning for different businesses and you help them find a plan with their business structures. How could you help share with our audience how they could kind of build on that when they might be there, but they're just not, because I don't think it's an overnight thing. I think we all have a purpose and we all are better at something than others, but I think leadership is something you can also grow on. And I don't think 20 years ago I could have led the way that I lead today. And I bet you all can say the same thing. So chime in. I'm sorry. We're going to keep going.
So I think with leadership, first and foremost, I always say this, leadership starts with leading yourself. It's the foundation of empowering leadership. So if you can't lead yourself well, you can't lead others well. So once you start leading yourself well, guess what's going to naturally happen? You're going to be a leader of others, because if you know what you're doing and what your purpose is and you're living that out, all it takes to be a leader is one person to follow you.
That's right.
So once you're leading yourself very well, you'll gain a follower. And guess what? Now I'm no longer just leading myself well, I'm now leading others. It takes one, takes two, takes three. Now I'm leading an organization. Before you know it, you can become a community leader, right? Yes. So how do you do that? Is foundationally knowing who you are and what your purpose is. It's kind of like, I always talk about business like it's marriage, right? Why is there a 50% failure rate in marriage? We could analyze a lot of times. We'll say it's because of finances. I would argue it's because when you get into, a lot of people, when they get into marriage, they don't even know who they are. So if they don't know who they are, how does their spouse know who they are? So if you're leading and you're leading blindly, people know that. So you can't gain followers. You can't gain the inspiration. You can't get the motivation. So fundamentally, to be able to lead, and that goes through with strategic planning, right? So in order to know where you want to go, you got to know what your purpose is. And a lot of times with strategic planning, what's the thing that's focused on? It's the wrong thing. Well, we want to be 5 million in 3 years. We want to be 10 million. And they're going after the revenue dollar. Like I said before, Billy doesn't wake up early in the morning to go, I'm jazzed to make that guy more money. That's not purpose. So so if you're saying your purpose is, let's say, sustainability, let's say environment, then what are your goals? How are you matching that goal, not just to revenue and profit share, but what are your goals to do that?
Right.
Let's make a difference. Let's make a dent. So that strategic plan has to not just be, as an aside, our purpose is to empower people, for example. What are your measurements to do that? And I'll tell you, that's not your revenue.
No, that's good.
That's so good. And she hit on something that is so important, which is self-awareness when it comes to leadership. Often, if I'm talking with middle-level leaders in the restaurant and they want to move up, or even 16-year-olds or 40-year-olds, the first place that I start is self-awareness. I think learning yourself, knowing where your blind spots are as a leader, how are other people experiencing you that maybe you're not aware of that you need to work on, but then also being aware of what are your strengths as a leader. We are operating our best as leaders when we get to operate out of a place of strengths. And so a lot of times I think organizations make the mistakes of only focusing on weaknesses and saying how we need to improve. And that's absolutely important, but focusing on your strengths and finding that sweet spot. But it's critical to surround yourself with people who are going to be honest with you in the context of safe relationships and people that you trust, so that they can work with you on, these are your blind spots that you have to move up into leadership or to move forward. These are the things you need to be thinking about. And until you're at a place where you want to become self-aware and you want that feedback, it's going to be really hard for you to be as successful as your potential. And once you embrace that, then that's when the magic happens and you can really work on yourself and move forward.
I'd like to add on that because you inspired me to study. So how many successful leaders have you said, my math teacher said I would suck in math and it never amount to anything, and here we all know this person, right? So it takes knowing yourself to know that if somebody comes and gives you something, says you're not good at this or this is your weakness, and you have to have that self-awareness. No, that person's entitled to their opinion, but I know that's not true. I'm going to persevere, right?
That's right.
So I think I just had to elaborate on that, because a lot of times it's about being able to take feedback from others and having that safe place, but you have to you have to be in a position to be able to accept that and also know who you are. Or you're going to be a chameleon and change every day based on what somebody else says.
And I know both of you ladies pretty well. I do not think either of you change in different settings. I think you are who you are, both of you. You are authentic, you're unique, and you serve, you give, you want to help. I mean, you give free advice all the time to me. And I'm not saying that, we really collaborate well together. And you've also, I went from working, and I still work with other Chick-fil-A's, but you've really just stood out to me because I work with so many different people, especially in the Colonial Heights, Tri-Cities area. And you just jumped in with both feet without any question, without any hesitation. You know that this is a military saturated area and you wanted to give back. And I commend you for coming up with a clever fundraiser for our nonprofit at Fort Gregg, because this day and age, it's very hard with the inflation the way it is, with everybody is kind of having to tweak and kind of reroute their budgets, where they're giving, where their focus is. And you have found a way that I think is going to be very successful, because unfortunately, you know, every family's feeling it, and it shows in those fundraisers at the restaurants. And I see it and I say, you know, whatever you can do, we're grateful for. And it's just amazing what you've jumped in and done for us, for our military families. I mean, I have a military family. My husband's serving. He's actually not here right now. And, you know, I appreciate anybody that gives to our military, because they don't make enough. A lot of them have big families, and some of them are just having one salary, and they're trying to get really creative in their budgets. And it's really people helping people, and you're doing that between our military families. You're giving at the Heights a lot of your time and money. I mean, you're really big in that community. I've seen you. I think you gave an entire week. Am I right? For the camp?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. Yes. That's amazing, because you're a business owner. You're working there. You're going and checking on your employees, and then you're going over here and shifting to not only a mom but volunteer. Sure. So you're showing that the bottom line just doesn't matter, but giving time matters, and that is a great role model to your employees. And then also your program at the schools. I mean, I was an educator. I still feel like I'm educating my own kids, so I can still say that. But you're providing life skills to our kids, to our future generations. How amazing. So hopefully by the time they're adults, they'll know a little bit about what you're talking about over there. Because, I mean, honestly, that's the problem. Sometimes there's like a little gap of window. They don't really understand what they're learning or how to make a strategic plan moving forward and being successful. So between both of you ladies, you've really been able to step up and have a purpose and find your way and be authentic, when sometimes that's not always the most popular choice. So we have to end today. This has been great. I would like to continue, by the way. This is a great conversation. I'd love to have both of you on again. Please, both of you, share how they can find you. They already know how to find me. So I want you to tell them who you are and how to find you, and the same thing for you.
Sure. I'm Stacie Anderson. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can also visit our store page at chickfila.com/Colonial Heights.
And I'm Tiffany Greene, founder of MPWRPeople. That's MPWRPeople. You can find us on empowerpeople.org. That's MPWR again, people.org. And you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. #EmpowerPeople.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Grant Writing with Michelle. Stay tuned for next exciting next week's show. Have a great day. Awesome.
Okay.